control. Here we go. Mike, I wish. But
there I go. There I go. Yeah.
I am just here in my apartment. All right, let's see. Switch. Probably.
Oh, that's your presenter mode.
Okay, I had it right the first time.
Hey, Johnson, I got a quick question. Is there a way to save the slides?
Sure, I'll send them out.
Okay,
Or
that'd be great.
We'll I'll make a PDF of them and send them out for you all.
That'd be great.
Okay, so I think we're good then.
Perfect. We'll wait until what time we got now. Yeah, we got a few minutes until 5:30.
You want me to wait to share my screen?
This is fine. This is
Fine.
It should have, let me see. This is fine, yeah.
I can wait. Also, if you'd rather be able to see everybody's faces, I would kind of rather.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So we'll wait a few minutes and.
We have a little birthday celebration, so I'm going to bail out in a little bit.
You are? Okay. Well, is it your birthday?
Not mine, no. Will Rosser's 48th today, so.
Hey, all right. Well, happy birthday.
Yeah. He's moving back.
Oh, that's great.
From Santa Monica.
Okay.
Bought a place in what you and I, or at least what I knew when I grew up, is North Denver, which is now called Jefferson Park.
Yeah. That's a great spot.
Bought a condo. Got a 3% mortgage.
Yep.
Now's the time to do that.
Now's
No
the time.
kidding.
Yeah.
You know, the risk premium on a mortgage is 300 basis points. So it's free money.
Yep, I just refied myself. So now's the time for that too.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
You know, my mom reminded me that the other day that Cathay Reynolds was also good friends with Jeannie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I've kind of known and re-known Cathy Reynolds off and on for years.
Yeah.
She kind of emerges around wherever I am about every 10 years or so. Yeah.
Good. I get that. Cathay knows the whole state of Colorado.
Oh, no kidding.
We're lucky to have her.
Yeah, we had a nice conversation, I think, after I talked with you last week with Joe. And we're going to do it.
Good. I'm sorry I haven't responded to your email. It's not because I don't want to make something happen. I just don't know yet what the right thing is.
No,
so,
I got kind of a clue. I took the information I got from him, and I went back with Harriet, and we're going to try and do something a lot more strategic.
Okay.
I think because our Denver Water's our partner too.
Got it. Yeah. So I'm not going to show this today because they're still very much in concept development, but we've finished sort of developing the concepts for all of the educational exhibits.
Uh-huh.
So the place that it would make most sense, and I have to go back and refresh my own memory about whether or not the history of water in Colorado exhibit has made the cut for this round, but you know, one of the things that we're also keeping in mind is that we want to refresh content. So yeah, what we put in on day one will not be what the educational exhibits are 5 years from now, etc. Yeah. It's nice to have a lot of things kind of on deck. So we can think a little bit about how that historical piece that you're interested in might fit in, either if the history one has made the cut for this round, then we could think about weaving that in a little bit. If not, we could think about it being something that we add in at a future date.
And we will have a site at milepost 1 of the 71, which is going to give some background and history of it. So, I mean, there's the facility at the stock show. We got 71 miles of historic sites and information places and so forth. So, and I think turning it over to Harriet's and she can kind of pick it up from there.
So Ryan, I am seeing some additional attendees coming in. And so I'm not sure why I am only seeing Mike and not others.
Yeah, so I was trying to click on them. It's not giving me, if you click on it should right click on people. It should let you allow them. For some reason, I thought I made you a co-host and not the host, but.
Okay.
So it should.
Can I make you a co-host real quick?
Okay. I'm going to mute my phone. So
Okay, thanks.
Talk to you soon. Take care. And thanks for putting this together.
Thanks for coming, Mike.
Thanks for coming, Mike. Okay.
You guys have a good one. See you.
I think what's going to happen is this is going to change you to the host.
Okay, I'll allow everyone.
But you can allow folks to come in.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait like 2 more minutes, everybody, and then I'll transfer it over to Jocelyn so she's ready to present. But as soon as we get a couple more people logged in, I'll allow you to chat. If you do want to chat, you can unmute. If you're just listening for now, feel free to mute it just so we're not getting too much background noise when she's talking. So
you're muted. You just click it. Oh, unmuted.
And the mute is at the bottom left. And if you want to share your camera when you want to talk with Jocelyn, there is a video right next to the mic too, if you want to do that too. But no pressure, whatever you guys are comfortable with. Are you ready to go? I think we should let.
Yes.
Here we go. We got another person.
Ready to go.
Okay.
And yes, we can see, I can see people's names at least. I can't see your faces, most of you, unless maybe that you haven't turned on your cameras. Or it may be that I'm not allowed to see you because of the format of the Zoom call. Ryan maybe knows the answer to that question.
They should be able to share their camera if they please. It's kind of auto off right away, so people may have to opt into that real quick.
Great.
Right now we got 7 people. All right. I'll switch it over to you, Jocelyn, and then when we get near the end, I'll just switch it back over to me if we have other people that want to chat.
Great.
Make you the host, and then I'll start the intro.
Great.
Jocelyn, do you have my wallpaper behind me?
I can't see you, Mike, no.
Okay. That's because I can't shut off my camera.
I think the way that this Zoom is set up, we can't actually see you unless you turn your camera on or we switch it. So I can hear you, but I can't see you. All right.
I'll get started with the intro here. So I would like to say thank you for joining us tonight for the Alumni Night and the Spur Campus webinar. I am Ryan Janisek with the CSU Alumni Association, and I understand that these are strange times, and we're just happy to have you here tonight and join us and hear about this fun and educational webinar for all of you. We are here to build a RAM community and be a resource with this webinar, and this is one of the reasons we can be a resource for you. I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight. We have many members I see on our roster that have attended tonight, so thank you so much for your membership. It makes events like this possible. Whether you're tuning in, wherever you're tuning in from, feel free to throw that in the chat. We're glad you could be with us. And if you have any questions during Jocelyn's presentation, feel free to unmute, chime in. She's open for during the presentation chatting. let's see if you have any technology questions during the presentation, I will put my information in the chat. If you have any questions, my phone will be in there for text messages, if that helps too. If you like this event, feel free to check out our other Alumni Association events coming up, such as the part 2. We got a two-part series cooking in August. We have a alumni canning with CSU Extension, August 12th. We have an alumni night in with the Visit Fort Collins, the 24th. So if any of those interest you, I'll also include that with my contact information in the chat. And then as Mike was asking about earlier, we will be including Jocelyn's PDF of her presentation. So if you want to review that later, I'll include that in our upcoming email following this presentation. And then this evening, I just want to thank Jocelyn for coming in. She is the CSU Senior Director of Sustainability and Denver Programs. She will share the latest updates on the 3-building campus construction, planned programming, community engagement efforts, and the Spur Campus. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Ryan, and thanks everybody for being here. Before I start, I'll take 1 second to introduce myself, and then since we have a relatively small group, I would love to go around and have each of you introduce yourself very briefly, what class you are, what department you were in, what you do now, and please also tell me if you've heard about the Spur Campus before so that I know how much detail to go into and if there are things that I can go quickly through because you've already heard from me before, maybe at the National Western Breakfast or at another event. So if you don't mind, I'll just call people out in the order that they are on my screen. So Mike Rosser, can you go first? Show us how it's done.
I've unmuted.
Great.
Okay, so I just got you unmuted. That's it.
You are unmuted, Mike. So if you can introduce yourself, and then we'll.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize everybody was there. I was distracted from it. Mike Rosser, 1964.
Wonderful. And I know that you know a little bit about the Spur Campus already.
Yes.
So next on my screen is Andy Jones. Andy, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm a 97 graduate in history. I'm an attorney and I work in the area of water law, and I'm interested in particularly the Western water policy, potential connection here with the Spur Campus, and I don't know really much about it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's helpful. DJ, you are next on my screen.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I coming through? Okay, I'm a 1970 graduate, and I'm just interested in learning what you guys have to offer.
Wonderful. Jonathan, you are next on my screen.
Hello, friends. My name is Jonathan Cable. I'm actually still a student at CSU. I'm going into my 3rd year in landscape architecture in the College of Agricultural Sciences.
Wonderful. Great to have you. Thanks for joining us. Kathy, you are next on my screen.
I think it's actually Phil. My wife signed up. I'm a 1980 graduate in range science.
In range science, you said?
Yes.
Wonderful. And have you heard anything about the Spur Campus before?
No.
Okay. All right. Nancy, you are next.
Hello, I'm a 1972 graduate in social science. And I had just recently read about the Denver campus and very interested to hear more.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us. And Tyler.
Hi. Yeah, I'm like another 2021 MBA future graduate, but I used to manage the San Luis Valley Research Center for Colorado State University. Heard a lot about the Spur and just wanting an update after being gone for about a year now.
Wonderful, thanks. So are you doing the MBA in person or online?
Finishing it online here in Athens, Georgia.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'm also an online MBA student. I'm doing the professional MBA at CSU. So I am also a current student in there with you. So let's see. And I see one more person, Julie. You are next. I actually can't see Julie's mic, so I wonder if Julie is actually fully signed in. Okay, well, hopefully maybe we can get Julie linked in here in a little bit. I will go ahead. I'll just one quick introduction for me. I'll do the same as you. Jocelyn Hiddle. I am the Senior Director of Sustainability and Denver Programs for the CSU System. My alumni bona fides are that my father was a faculty member at CSU in mechanical engineering. My grandparents, both of his parents, were CSU alums in agronomy and home economics. And my great-grandfather was also a professor at CSU. He taught chemistry. So I'm fourth gen CSU in some form or fashion. And I am now, as I mentioned, a current student in the online professional MBA program. So our roots are deep in the Hiddle family. And I'm excited to be here with you. I'm so excited to and privileged to have the job that I do, working down here in Denver, to bring a Denver campus to the CSU system as part of the redevelopment of the National Western Stock Show site. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Are you seeing my slides?
Yep, that looks great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. So I'm going to quickly do an overview, but as Ryan mentioned, if you at any time have questions and would like to stop me and ask a question, please unmute yourself and do feel free to interrupt. I'm fine with this being more of a discussion. So what you see there is the name of the CSU campus that is part of the National Western Center. So it is called the Spur Campus, CSU Spur Campus. And that is for a number of different reasons. One is that it's a nod to the Western heritage of the National Western Stock Show site. Also, it is actually on the location of an old rail spur. We also like to think about it more as a verb. So it's a place where we are spurring innovation, where we're spurring connection, and it's really a place of a lot of activity and vibrancy. And you'll see that as I go through this, that it is a different than a typical college campus, and that vibrancy is a big piece of what we're striving for. So a quick overview. And if you aren't going to ask a question, if you could just be sure you're muted so that we can avoid background noise, that would be great. So a few notes for those of you who are not as familiar with the National Western Stock Show and where it is. It is in North Denver. It is in the Elyria neighborhood, sort of between Globeville and Elyria Swansea, those three neighborhoods in North Denver. You can just barely see them written there on the top of that slide. It's more or less at the intersection of I-25 and I-70, so it's right at the crossroads of the state. And also at the north end of a lot of development that has been happening in Denver. There's been a lot of change in the River North Arts District, which is part of the Five Points neighborhood in Denver, where a lot of arts activity has been happening and a lot of redevelopment. So it's a very active, very vibrant part of the city. And we are lucky enough to be at the northern end of that activity. This is the site. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to talk more about what we're actually going to do here rather than what the physical site looks like. But a couple features I'll point out. One is that you can see that's I-70 that you see in the bottom part of the image. I-25 is just off to the right. You see a diagonal line going through there. That is a rail spur. It is, or a rail line rather. That is the Burlington Northern as well as RTD's North line going through the site. So there will be a RTD stop here at the National Western Center. What you're looking at now that is in color is the first two phases of the development, and CSU is a part of those two phases. And everything south of that diagonal line that I mentioned that's outlined in that dotted orange line is something called the triangle because it's roughly triangular. And that part of the project will be something that is done in partnership with a private sector developer. That is a process that is ongoing, currently on hold due to COVID, but will be something that helps to finish some of the big parts of the project, like the new arena, like some structured parking, the restoration of the 1909 Stadium Arena, and a new expo hall. So we're looking forward to that being complete. In the first two phases, you can see a couple big features. One is that the stockyards here at the northern end, I think you all can see my mouse. These are the stockyards that will be there during the stock show in January, and then those pens go away, and that can be used for other events throughout the year. This building here is a equestrian center and barn used for horse events. This is a pavilion space, the Stockyard Event Center, that will anchor events in the stockyards. This is a new livestock building. This is the new National Western Center Legacy building. That's their new headquarters. And then here you'll see CSU's new 3 buildings that I will tell you more about, right next to the historic livestock exchange building right here, which if you go to the stock show, you'll remember is the building with the large pillars on it, and is being repurposed and renovated as the historic structure. We're also building 2 new bridges across the South Platte River. That was something that was requested in particular by the neighborhoods on either side of the National Western Center, because connectivity is so, it's really difficult to move east-west through that part of the city right now. So we wanted to be responsive to that community need, as well as connect the National Western Center across the river. The river being our western boundary is a huge asset for us. It is a great opportunity for green space along the river, for recreation, for access to this incredible asset that the city of Denver has in the South Platte River. And it helped to sort of frame some of the thinking we did around what CSU would do here around water. So quickly, I'll just mention a few other things about the project, the Spur Campus in particular. It is a CSU System project, meaning that we are bringing together all 3 of our existing campuses, CSU Fort Collins, CSU Pueblo, CSU Global, in addition to connections to our campus in Mexico in Todos Santos. It is different, as I mentioned, than maybe a traditional college campus in that it's really geared toward bringing a lot of people together. It's geared toward industry partnerships. It's geared toward K-12 education and outreach, and engaging the general public in topics of food, water, and health, as well as connecting people with all of the CSU system here in Denver. I already mentioned that it is a system project. But in addition to having all of the CSU system as a part of it, we also have a number of different external partners, and I'll say more about that. But one of the partners obviously is the National Western Center, and all of the partners that came together, including the Museum of Nature and Science, History Colorado, the City and County of Denver, the Western Stock Show Association, to create this vision for the National Western Center. You can see that vision there on the left and our vision on the right. Those are sort of nested within each other, but really I'll just highlight that really what we're hoping to talk about at Spur and be a global leader around is that intersection of food, water, and health. So as I mentioned, it's a very public-facing place. We want to have vibrant spaces. I'll tell you more about our public art program, but it's a place where we want people coming and interacting. When we can convene people safely again, we are looking forward to bringing people together at Spur in groups of various sizes, from small meetings to larger conferences and events. And then within Spur, we have a certain amount of space. But within the National Western Center overall, we have much more, and there are very large event venues that can convene a lot of people. So we are looking forward to the day that we can bring people together to work on these issues around food, water, and health. It also will be a place where there is more traditional teaching and research, and I'll say more about that. As I mentioned, we have a number of different partners. I won't spend much time here because I'm going to talk about each of these partners a little bit more. But just know that it really has been a collective effort across a variety of organizations and individuals. This is a different image of looking down on the phases 1 and 2 site, just to give you a little bit of how it feels in 3D and a sense of how large the site is. Overall, including the triangle, it's 250 acres, which doubles the size of the existing site, and is an amazing opportunity for redevelopment in the heart of downtown, or in the heart of Denver. So you can see our 3 buildings there in the foreground and the river moving north. So I'm going to go very quickly through our programs and facilities because I want to be sure we have plenty of time for questions and discussion. So I'll just mention that each of these buildings has a lot of different things going on within it. You could sort of imagine that we are trying to create a little mini campus, and in order to do that, each of these buildings has to play a lot of different roles. And I'm sorry the formatting looks a little funny on this slide. I'm not sure why. But I'll go through quickly the programs that are in the first of our buildings, the Vida building, which is focused on animal health and connections between human and animal health. So all three of these buildings also have a K-12 educational component, so they all will have educational exhibits and ways for the public to come in and interact. But they also, in this case, this building has a number of service and clinical roles as well. So there will be equine sports medicine. So that is work that is done on horses that are athletes. So sports medicine from out of our College of Vet Med and Biomedical Sciences. There are equine assisted activities and therapies, which is using horses to provide therapy, whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy to people. There will also be a small animal clinic run by Dumb Friends League that is for low-income families. And there will be living space for students who are there on rotation, so our veterinary students who are there on rotation, as well as visitors and FFA officers, which that got cut off in that slide. So I'll show you some renderings. Design is complete on this building. So these renderings are pretty accurate about to give you a sense of what the building will look like. All of these buildings have a lot of glass. We want people to be able to see in, to see what's going on, to know that they are welcome in these buildings, and to come in and experience all of these public-facing activities that we have. As I mentioned, K-12 educational programs are a huge part of all three buildings. We will have some on-show veterinary care, and I'll say more about that in a minute. We'll have mock veterinary exams. We'll have classes that are taught by our own CSU team, as well as Dumb Friends League. We will have a virtual reality experience that is similar to the one that is available in the Health Education and Outreach Center up in Fort Collins, and we will have these specific connections to that center as well. So Dumb Friends League offers donor subsidized care for low-income families. So we are already offering a clinic annually where we bring together veterinary students and veterinarians in a nonprofit in the neighborhoods to offer vaccines and wellness exams on an annual basis, and we will expand that to a year-round once we open. As I mentioned, there's an on-show clinic. So what looking into the veterinary clinic, and so you can watch veterinarians doing surgeries and exams and dentals, and they will have mics and will be able to speak with the public and tell them what they are doing and answer questions. This is actually modeled off of Animal Kingdom at Disney. And some of you may know that the current dean of our vet school used to work there. So he has brought that idea to us here, and we're really looking forward to it. That green box you see in the middle is where we will have mock exam rooms. So kids can go in and walk through sort of a mock diagnosis and get exposed to veterinary medicine and health and STEM by doing it themselves. You'll also be able to look down and watch horses in that sports medicine clinic on underwater treadmills and getting evaluated by veterinarians. Similarly, you'll be able to look down into the Temple Grandin Equine Center where there is equine assisted activity happening into that arena. So you can see here that arena will be shared between sports medicine and Temple Grandin, and there's viewing up where you see that green. There's seating to look down into these arenas and watch the activity happening there. As I mentioned, there'll be living spaces. These are just concepts of what that might look like that will house veterinary students and anyone who needs to be on campus for a few days. There are about 40 beds there that will be used for summer camps for students and things like that. So the Spur Center for Food and Agriculture is the next building, again, a K-12 component. And I'll go through actually all of these that are there on this slide. So I'm going to move on in the interest of time. So again, showing you what the renderings of the building look like. Design is also complete on this one. They have really, our design teams, we have 3 different design teams for each building, and they have really focused on trying to capture some of the themes of what's happening in the building. So you'll see here that there's a lot of wheat colors and agricultural themes in some of of the ways that they have designed the building. That big glass box on the front is where our K-12 education happens, and has great views into the rest of the plaza. Again, trying to draw people into the building by letting them see that there are people in there doing things and interacting with exhibits. It will have a rooftop greenhouse and a green roof. You can see that in this view. And then on the inside, we will have a teaching and culinary kitchen. So this is a space where people can teach nutrition classes, and where ideally we can also have community members who've gone through some trainings in there, who are starting a food business, cooking what they need to in the evenings once that is not being used as a teaching kitchen. So we can support some economic development in the community. That's just some other views of that central atrium space of that building. We also will have some controlled environment agriculture. So that little green box you see there is where you might have grow towers that are growing things. Again, what we're trying to do here is bring the public in and connect them to food, and connect them to topics they might not have thought about, to try to connect youth to career paths they might not have thought about. And so when you think about food and agriculture, you may not think about urban ag as much and what that means and the technology that's involved. And so we want to, and the biology and the science and all the different things that are involved in that. So we want to demonstrate these things and have youth be able to interact with the scientists themselves. So we will have controlled environment faculty who will be down here sometimes teaching and connecting with young people. So as I mentioned, all of these different K-12 experiences, including the greenhouse and the green roof and the living walls and all of these things within this space, focused on urban ag, at least in terms of the physical space, because we have pretty small footprint, but really encompassing all different kinds of themes around food and agriculture. As I mentioned, there's a kitchen. There's also a food lab for us to partner with industry, with food industry, so that they can come in and test out different recipes or different packaging techniques or different methodologies. And that will connect to a Center for Agribusiness Innovation that's focused on connecting students and entrepreneurs and larger businesses to advance the state of the art in food and ag. Again, the focus on urban ag will also extend to our research and our educational programs, and we will have service labs that will test soil and water and plants for the general public. Extension will play a really large role here, connecting with our surrounding communities, providing programming that's responsive to what their needs are, and I'll say a little bit more about our community engagement in a moment. Last but not least, the Spur building, the water building at Spur has a whole slew of different activities in it, and I'm just gonna jump right in. This is what the renderings of this building look like, and I'll just note that what you see on the outside is actually the cross section of a river eddy. So you know, river eddy goes this way, sort of a little spot where the water swirls, and this is a cross section of that. So that is what that building will look like. The backyard of this building takes us right down into the South Platte River. Well, there's some detention and then right down into the South Platte River, and it is laid out to mimic the 8 different watersheds of Colorado. So people can come and walk essentially the Continental Divide and learn a little bit about all of the 8 different watersheds by walking through the backyard. Something that we really wanted to highlight is how unique Colorado is as one of only 2 headwater states. So this is looking north at the bottom half, and I'll just mention that what we are doing here, you see new building here, and the other thing that we are doing is we are renovating and repurposing an existing building, which is what you see in the foreground on the left. That is a slightly different color and made out of brick. It was a welder studio for a while. It's called the McConnell building. This is a little glimpse into what it looks like now, and we're really excited at the opportunity to refurbish this building and turn it into a really amazing part of the water building. Those garage doors along the back will be artist studios, and we will keep that wooden ceiling on the interior, and the rest of that building, there'll be artist studios, but also office space and a small coffee stand. So that will be a great addition to the building. And you can see here that alleyway where you have that bright mural painted connects the older building. Now you're looking at it from the other direction, so that's on the south side to the new build in the backyard here. And this is what that would look like looking down the plaza from the National Western Campus. Excuse me. These are just some snapshots of what the interior of the building will look like. Again, these are just renderings, so don't take them too seriously. Those will change a little as we get a little bit further with design. K-12, really important, and that connections to the river will be huge. We have a teaching lab. We want kids to be taking water samples and looking at them under microscopes and understanding the South Platte River. And we want also to connect the challenges that those kids are learning about to solutions. So the Innovation Center concept that we have here is to connect ag innovation along with water innovation, and again, to be connecting students and researchers and entrepreneurs to people who are actually working in water, whether that's agricultural water challenges or whether it's municipal or industry, whatever it is. We want to be matching up those thinkers with the problems that are being identified by people who are working in the water sector to create solutions to those challenges. And that also links up with our policy center, which I'll mention in a moment. So as I mentioned, research is happening in all of these buildings. We are bringing a lot of different water sources into one laboratory in this building. So gray water, black water, roof runoff, stormwater, all coming into a laboratory so that we can do research on water quality and new techniques for cleaning and treating those different water sources. And then the Policy Institute is an important piece of this. A lot of that technology and the processes that I mentioned around water need a policy solution as well. If you come up with a new technology that's not allowed by law or that has other policy implications that need to be addressed, we needed to match up the technology and the research with policy solutions. We also will have Denver Water as a partner in that building. Their water quality compliance laboratory will be on the 3rd floor of that building. And it is the space where we have our arts, some of our arts component. So there is a black box theater there. You see that in the lower image that will be able to host performing arts. We'll be able to host conferences, larger meetings. But it's also a place for us to continue our public engagement by teaching after school classes, by having theater programs, by working with the local schools. So here I'll just pause for a moment to mention that we are pretty aggressively working on connecting with our surrounding communities and have been for the last 6 years. It's been really important to us to be sure that we are not just sort of coming in as a large institution and presenting what it is that we want to do and not being responsive to the community. It's part of the land grant ethic, as you all know, to be responsive to community, to listen to what it is that is needed and to be responsive to those needs. So over the last 6 years that we have been working on this project, we have done a lot of listening, and we have partnered with Bruce Randolph School, which is the middle school, high school in the Globeville and Elyria Swansea neighborhoods, as well as the 2 elementary schools. We have partnerships with about 16 different nonprofit organizations as well, where we work with them to enhance the work they're already doing. Because as much as we didn't want to come in and just and not listen to what the community needed, we also knew that there were a lot of organizations that were already doing great work, and we wanted to partner with them and not recreate the wheel. So we've had great experiences, in particular working with the schools in our neighborhood here. So a quick construction update, and this is for those of you who haven't heard much about this before or have heard this before. This is where things get a little bit new. So we have started construction. So the Vida building went under construction in April. We broke ground. We had planned a big in-person groundbreaking that was a virtual groundbreaking, but we are happy to be underway no matter what. So really excited about that. And you can see that all of these buildings, all 3 of them will be completed, are scheduled to be completed in late 2022. With Vida being a little bit faster. So here's some images of what's actually happening out there on site. So you can see on the left, we actually found the foundations of the Swift meatpacking plant, and we even had some of the walls upright and the doors intact, which was kind of amazing. So that is kind of an interesting nod to the history of the site, that this was, really an industrial place and a place where there was thriving business happening, and the Swift meatpacking company was a big part of that. And then you can see we are building around and above, and you know, had to take some of that out, obviously. But you can see that we are building on site, and you can see some of that progress. It's really great. As I mentioned, we do have a really great opportunity in that as a state funded project, there is 1% of the 1% for art programs. So we have great public art that we're able to bring to this site. We have 8 different sites that are within and in the exterior of these buildings. So I'll go through those quickly. Priscilla de Carvalho is doing the interior of the Vida building. You can see her ceramic mural there that features a bunch of different animals. The exterior of that building will be done by Norman Lee and Shane Albritton, and it is actually an amazing connection between science and art in that you see this image of the horse, but the actual image is like echocardiogram across each of those different, you can kind of see that there are these little horizontal lines, and they mimic echocardiograms, and then the density is where you see the darker color, which is pretty cool. For the Spur Center for Food and Ag, we have selected Sandra Fatingas for the interior, and she is doing this sort of wheat-inspired piece that will hang in the atrium of the Ag Discovery Center. Very cool. The exterior of that building will be done by Patrick Merrild, who is out of Nederland, Colorado, and he's doing this kind of wire metal hay bale inspired piece, which is very cool. And then inside the water building, we have Eric Tillinghast from California, who is doing a water feature. You can see his prototype there on the left. It won't look exactly like that. It'll probably look a little bit more like that rendering on the right. But we're excited about that. And then another local artist from Denver, Nikki Pike, will be doing the art in the backyard. You can see that's one of her concepts, and this is another concept of how she might do some work in the backyard. And then in the alleyway, you've already gotten a sneak preview of this, but Anthony Garcia, who is actually from the neighborhoods and has a nonprofit organization, the Birdseed Collective, in the neighborhoods, is doing that mural in the alleyway between the new build and the old building. And last but not least, the bridge that goes between the Terra building, the food building, and the water building is being done by Jason Bridge out of London. And this is his concept. And these are little circles of light that actually connect to research that's happening in the building and change based on the data that is coming out of that research. So I just talked for a really long time at all of you, and I would love to hear if you all have questions or thoughts, or if there's anything I can expand on. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see a little better and see if any of you have questions. Please feel free to unmute and just fire away.
Well, I want to thank you for the presentation, and also just say that it really looks phenomenal. You know, I'm excited about the public component, the public-facing component of the water education, because we're just finding that so important. To have that space and that brand new space to do that is just an awesome thing for the water community. So I'm especially excited about that part of it.
Great. Thanks, Andy. And I think one of the things that we really want to ensure we are contributing to is really that water becomes a kitchen table conversation in Colorado. It's such an important issue. And a lot of that starts really young, and we want to get those kids in there early and understanding where their water comes from and how important it is to the state.
Thank you.
How many on-site people do they expect to run this facility? It seems huge.
For the Spur Campus facilities only, you know, we expect that, you know, if every single desk in every single office is full, we can fit about 300 people. In terms of the number of staff that we'll need to support that, I don't know that off the top of my head. I think in, you know, administrative staff, we have to think about who's doing maintenance and all of those things, and that's still in the works. But it's something that we need to nail down in the next couple of years, obviously, because we're getting close to opening.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Other thoughts or questions?
So was there going to be actual classes? You mentioned some education going on there. Was there going to be actual college credit things going on there?
Sorry about if I didn't focus on that enough. Thanks for bringing that question up. So there are a number of master's programs that have been proposed to be hosted at Spur. One in agribusiness innovation, so that would connect with that Ag Innovation Center that I mentioned. So students would come as a cohort to work on real business challenges as part of their master's program, and that would be out of the College of Ag Sciences. There has also been a proposed master's. It has not yet been finalized in urban sustainability, as well as a certificate program proposed in water. Again, those are not finalized. We really anticipate that a lot of what we do here is more of the master's or non-traditional degrees or certificates. That said, the other role we really see this campus playing is helping with concurrent enrollment. So, and online classes. So if you, for example, wanted to, as a high school senior, take Chemistry 101, it's difficult to do right now because there's nowhere to do the lab component. So we have a teaching lab that is set up to accommodate the lab component of that online class. So you could, as a high school senior, go ahead and take Chem 101 at CSU and get credit. That's just an example. There are many different classes where that laboratory component can be something that is hosted at Spur. Similarly, as we're thinking increasingly about online education, we also know that in-person component is really important. So even for flipped class experiences where most of the lectures are online, we hope that Spur is a place where people can come together for discussion sections or just to get to know each other. As an online MBA student myself, and I know there are plenty of us in Denver, it would be great to have a place where we can get together as current students and get to know each other a little bit more, given that most of the rest of our experience is online. Obviously there's a lot of uncertainty around how much higher ed and coursework will be online versus not in the coming year or so. So not much we can do to help in that short term, since we'll still be under construction, but I think we're going to learn a lot about how people like to learn and how they like to interact from that experience that we can apply at Spur.
Jocelyn, is any of this available to look at on the web after we finish tonight?
Sure. So as Ryan mentioned, we'll go ahead and send around my PowerPoint presentation. And I believe, Ryan, it looks like we are recording this, so I don't know if that will be posted somewhere as well.
Yep. So we'll send out an email and it'll include all her presentation, and then it'll include the link to our YouTube page, and it'll be there. It'll be on the YouTube page within a week of us posting it. So just have to refresh it. So.
I'll also mention that Spur has its own website. So if you want to go and explore some of the content there, if you go to csuspur.org or .com, either way, you can get to the Spur website where you can see information about the campus and about our artists and about our upcoming Water in the West Symposium.
I had heard about efforts to connect with the other facilities you have throughout the state. Not just to stay in Denver. What's going on with that, if you have anything to update on?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question. There's so much to say about Spur, and I have to sort of choose what to start with, and I don't always get to all the good stuff in the first presentation. So thank you very much for that question. It's really important. Because the Spur campus is state funded, we have really taken our responsibility to the entire state very seriously. So while I mentioned that we've done a lot of engagement in the surrounding neighborhoods, because we do feel this sense of responsibility as to be a good neighbor and to be responsive locally, we also know that there's sort of concentric circles that go out, and how can we think about Denver as a whole, the Front Range, the entire state. So over the last year and a half or so, Christy Vilsack, who is a special advisor to us on this project and has a deep background in education, has been going around with some other folks, Cathay Reynolds within the system office as well. I'm sure many of you know her. to do a listening tour. So partly to listen to educators in rural areas and other places throughout the state to say, how can we, as we are developing K-12 educational content, be sure that content is relevant for you? How can we learn from what you're doing and showcase what you're doing here in Denver, and make connections to other educators throughout the state? But also we talked with extension agents, we talked with the research stations to say, how can Spur be an asset for you? Whether it's getting information out or pulling information in or showcasing what you're doing, because we do have this amazing space in an urban area where, you know, 1 million people are slated to come through in January for the stock show, 2 million annually once the entire thing is built. So we have this huge audience, and it's a great way for us to showcase what's happening throughout the state, and also make connections throughout the state. So we really see the Spur campus as kind of the center of you know, the hub, and there are all these folks throughout the state where we can help to connect and really be a resource and an asset statewide. So thanks for that question.
Anybody else have any questions for Jocelyn? Well, if not, I'll include Jocelyn's information in our email coming out soon. Be able to shoot her some more questions, because I'm guessing as soon as we hang out, someone's gonna have a question. So, but it'll be a continuing thing, because she's always having updates, and it's quite the process they got going out there, and it's gonna be a sweet little campus. So very excited, and want to thank you for presenting tonight, and thanks for everyone for coming in tonight.
Thanks so much.
Keep posting photos.
It was great to learn some things. That was great.
Thank you. Thanks so much for coming, and I look forward to welcoming you all to the Spur campus in person once we open in late 21 and into 22. It seems like a long way, but it'll be here before we know it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.